Alright, in kind of a response to Mike B's series on Tales of the Fudd, I've kind of come up with a video of my own that I think goes into a little bit deeper and covers a few other topics. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to cut across the guy's wake here, follow him or something. But I've watched his videos, I understand where he's coming from, I like his channel, and the guy's always spoke highly of me and complimented me, okay? So this isn't kind of a thing against him. But the reason I titled my video of Fudds, Boomers, Pissants, and Opportunist is, even though he's covering the one thing which I believe is a difference, there is a difference of opinion, but is also a difference with age. I mean, I know he tries to say it, and you know, that, yeah, Fudd could be younger, but it is an age difference. But I understand. I was young once, you know, and people told me owning something like this, Colt H-Bar, was, you know, there's no reason why I should have it, and that. And I understand where you guys are coming from, and I just kind of wanted to give my views on this whole situation, because there's a little bit more going on than just basic range. Basically what you guys are talking about is range bullying or range snubbing or whatever, you know, when you go out to the clubs and people don't like the type of gun you're shooting or say that you're a nuisance and disturbing them, you know, that goes on. My club had got to the point where there was some sort of a disagreement and they had to put it in the monthly newsletter. There was a statement from the president, and he said that range bullying, whatever that means, will not be tolerated in the club, and they will review your membership, and if it's some sort of problem, we'll throw you out over it. What the incident was or what it is, they didn't say. But it's just, you know, everybody keep a cool head on the range and nobody start arguing with somebody one way or the other. Alright, so let's go over some of the definitions to help you guys out here. Fudds, okay? He does a thing with Fudds and he gives you the definition and brings up the cartoon from Warner Brothers with Elmer Fudd. And that, and actually the word is a lot older, and I'll tell you what it really stems from is the term or word fuddy-duddy. Now, I tried looking up where this comes from, and some people say it goes as far as 1833 to 1870 to 1902. Is when the word first popped up, fuddy-duddy. And what a fuddy-duddy, the description of it is a fussy, old-fashioned traditionalist, conformist, or conservative to the point of being eccentric or a geek. You know, really. You know, somebody who really intensely focuses on order. Stuffy, unadventurous, out of date. Now I believe the term come up like during the Roaring '20s. A fuddy-duddy was an old man who was like the old wealthy industrialist back in the 1880s, living a Victorian, you know, American version of Victorian lifestyle, the Industrial Revolution, and was usually wealthy, okay, extremely wealthy. That's kind of what a fuddy-duddy was, and I think I heard that term in the older movies from the 20s and 30s is where I heard it. And then you would hear it in some circles later on, but then I guess the cartoonists picked it up, and that's where they made the character Elmer Fudd. And if you watch the cartoons, when Bugs Bunny got into Elmer Fudd's estate, he was swimming in his indoor pool and that. Elmer Fudd is like a wealthy industrialist. So that's kind of where the personality comes from, but basically you're talking about an old fart, which that is another way, that is highly conservative, doesn't bend, and is opinionated. So basically that's what a Fudd is. Doesn't matter, be it in guns or whatever, people like that. Now, you fellas, another thing I notice is the region where you guys come from, okay, up there, I don't know, Frostbite Falls, Minnesota, up in that section, neck of the woods up there where Bullwinkle and Rocky live. I'm from upstate New York, and there's a lot of similarities, both socially, because now we're talking about social status, social behavior, and a lot of the things you're saying, the reason they also get upset over the Fudds is the Fudds say you can't have weapons of war, okay, which are these items right here. And why they believe that. And a lot has to do with the way our society used to be back in the old days and how it all changed. And I'll go over that. Next, boomers. Again, this is all, you guys are throwing age out there. And of course he once said, oh, Cole 49, he's a boomer. Yes, granted my birth date falls in because they are official dates. I'm not a boomer, even though I do fall into that very end range of boomers. My parents were not World War II veterans. Okay, my grandparents were. I guess I fall under, I looked it up just to be official, Generation X. My brother misses that by 1 year. And Generation X, it is different. There is a transition of our society from the 70s and 80s. Most of the people in Generation X were depicted as, characterized as slackers, cynical, and disaffected. Okay, people who just didn't give a damn. It does mention MTV, which is something I really thought was great when it was around, and I miss it. But then again, I also remember the Cold War, the values, and the way things were done back the way the boomers did. So I kind of know both of them. So you can't really say I'm a boomer, technically. And this is how you date people. And I think the biggest conflict you guys are getting into is the age difference. But I can explain that if you want to hear it. Now, terms that I threw in, pissants, okay? Let's see, pissant is an inconsequential, irrelevant, or worthless person, especially one who is irritating and contemptible out of proportion to his or her perceived significance. So, sound familiar? Okay. Basically, that's what I refer to people who come and tell you something crazy, or whenever you're dealing with guns or history, and come up with all this weird shit and get in your face about it, and you try to politely just back away, and they don't stop. And, they're right, you're wrong, no matter what, whether you prove it or not, or tell them, look, what the hell you're talking about is bullshit, this is the reality of it. They don't like it. Plus, they're just the annoying people that you see at gun shows, or that want to buy guns from you or talk about guns with you and have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, okay? To me, I like calling them pissants. All right, Generation X, pissants, fuddy-duddies, all right. Opportunist. This is something a lot of you fellas are leaving out, because a lot of the comments I heard, he was talking about, oh, I went back and there are these Fudds at a table at the gun show, we got all these guns, and prices are high, and they're trying to tell them, that the weapon is something it's not and all this other shit. And you don't have to be old for that. I mean, there's a lot of them. I know who you're talking about because there's a lot of the dealers that deal in surplus guns are way older than me. Okay, and I'm old. Actually, a lot of them are dropping like flies. That's why you don't see them locally. And there's a couple people who have taken over. There is one young fella that has taken over this market. And there's another guy, he's not as old as me, but he's more, he's not that young either. Okay? And what it is when I say opportunist, which takes the fun out of collecting guns, be it, or any type of firearm, is these are people who, like when I say, this is a Colt H-bar, and a person who's a collector or interested in guns would say, hey, that's a neat gun, blah, 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 I know this about it, yeah. An opportunist, when I say Colt H-bar, automatically the first thing that pops into his head is a dollar amount. M1 Garand, there's a dollar amount, and first thing. Doesn't ask about condition when it was made or whatever, it's just he sees dollar signs. And actually, opportunists, they hope that they ban guns like this because they're hoping that legislation will come and outlaw this and they're going to make a vast fortune because they got a closet of ARs that once they're banned, they're going to go from like $400-600 to $2,000 each, and they're going to cash in. So I think you guys kind of forget there are other forces working there, and you know they don't have to be old Fudds to be screwing you out of your money. All right. So in that series, I was listening to how Fudds, the big thing is, and that's why I brought the guns out, is how one guy said that he was with this fella, and again, Vietnam vet. I wasn't old enough to get sucked into the Nam. Actually, the war ended while I was still in grade school. Okay? So, he's with this fella, and they got an M1 Garand, and he shows them how to use the M1 Garand and everything, and shoots it, and everybody's happy. And then he goes and pulls out an AR-15, and the old guy looks at him and goes, oh, that's a weapon of war. Now, the thing is, when it comes to this weapon of war, what you're talking about is a time period and a mindset. And you're dealing with more than just, you know, because you say it's hypocrisy, which it is, okay? General Patton said this was the finest. The M1 Garand was the finest war implement ever designed. Okay? You have to look historically, and I remember how things were when I was a child. How this gun came about. This weapon was forced into service through political reasons. Okay? And it is more advanced and more modern than something like this. And people just didn't like it. Okay? It's a mindset. And the stories, the weird stories, I could go on if you really want in the comments section. If you want me to discuss all the bullshit, weird crap I heard about this weapon system, okay? And it's all unfounded, and there is some truth or how this bizarre rumor and wild tale started. And actually, after 50 years of service or more, I still really don't like a lot of the shortcomings of this weapon system, and I don't believe it's the best that there is. Okay, but I'm proficient with it. I know how to use it. I can build them. I can tweak them, tune them, but it is not my favorite weapon system. Okay, there's a lot of reasons why. And we go with the M1 Garand. So the one guy's complaint was the old guy did this hypocrisy on him, a weapon of war. Now a lot of you guys, like Mike is saying, when he graduated from high school, I was getting my first bypass surgery, okay? So, If you go back to the early 70s, go back to the days before you had to fill out a form, you just bought guns. The United States government sold firearms, old surplus firearms like the M1 Garand was becoming in the late 60s, early 70s. The government just sold them. There was an ad in a gun magazine. You fill a little form out, mail them a check or money order, and they sent the damn thing to your door. That was before there were federal firearms licenses and all this other crap. That's how the government disposed of its weapons. The reason they stopped, and the reason we have the gun laws from 1968, is because of the political turmoil in this country and the fact that political change was done by shooting people, much like President Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., Rockwell, the head of the Nazi Party, and then the other, Bobby Kennedy, got popped. So, politicians didn't like it, they had to do something in the gun laws. So now, they're sitting there, they got all these M1 Garands, and they're like, look, we got to get rid of these things. You could buy them, and like I got this one in the early 90s through what was called the DCM, okay, Director of Civilian Marksmanship. I guess now it's called the MP or something, whatever the hell, but that's how I got this gun. And what I had to do is, if I was a veteran and a member of a club that was affiliated with the DCM, I could buy it. Other than that, you had to go and participate in the club's program, get on a register, and they had Garands and they had ammo. And you would go down there and shoot a few matches, and if you shot the matches and were not a veteran, then you were eligible to buy an M1 Garand or a carbine. Okay? So that's kind of the way it was. What the hell you do now, I don't know. There's lotteries and all kinds of other crap. But after the gun law, they wanted to, the government said, look, we want to get rid of these things. And they wanted to sell them. And they said, look, give us an exemption and let us sell these on the open market. And this was a huge debate in the 70s. And in the early 70s, it was in gun magazines and everything, the powers to be said that this M1 Garand and M1 carbines were weapons of war. Okay, they were weapons of war, and they were not supposed to be sold just to the general public, to anyone that wants to buy them, because society would collapse, armed robbery would go up, people would be robbing gas stations with M1 Garands and everything else. Nevertheless, the carbines. So after this whole big political debate, and now these evil weapons that'll destroy our society if we openly just sell them to anyone, in 1982, when I was in boot camp, the first batch of Garands that were welded up into drill rifles arrived. And the M1 carbines were given wholesale to the Mexican government to arm their police force. They just gave them as aid. Okay? This was a weapon of war. Okay? This created a problem. So yes, the guy's hypocritical by saying that this is a weapon of war, but this is not. Okay? It has to do with time and the mindset of the people in society. Okay? And you got egos, and you got people who, because the reverse of what you fellas are saying with Fudds and boomers is, on the other hand, people my age look at you like spastic little dickheads running around with goddamn, guns like this. All right? Two-way street. Now, to prove my point, let's roll the clock back all the way until 1887. And that's when the Italians developed this weapon here, the Italian Veterli. And what it was a single-shot gun. But then they went in 87 and put a 4-shot magazine and made this a repeating rifle. At the time, this was probably one of the most technologically advanced guns. This beats the Springfield Trapdoor, the Snyders, and all these other guns, okay, the black powder era 44, 45 caliber bolt action guns, you know, and they did this with the Dutch rifle. When Italy did this, they were instantly called out internationally by upgrading their military to this weapon, which a lot of you guys don't even know what the hell it is. They said that they had such an advanced weapon that by fielding this with their army, they had become a threat in Europe and disrupted the peace. And we thought having a bomb was a big deal. You know, it's crazy. Now, boomers. Part of the problem is people who grew up, and the boomers are people who were born from the end of World War, you know, anywhere in the 40s, from the start of World War II. And then when everyone got back from the war, there was a huge increase in the population, or the baby boom, which went on into the 60s. This is when America was a way different place. There was something called upward mobility. There were a lot of people that, you know, my grandparents in the Depression era, the reason you didn't go to high school is because high school cost money. I believe my great uncle said that it was $25 a year your family would have to pay tuition for you to go to high school. And eventually there were public high schools later on, you know, after World War II, or there were some, I can't remember how it worked, but generally that's why the law didn't require. They required you went to the 8th grade, which had public education. But our system, being a high school graduate, meant you came from a different financial, social level. And college people were, you know, the wealthiest people. So if you had a college degree, doctor or a lawyer back in the 20s or 30s, that was a big deal. Okay, really big. So after the war, both my parents went to high school, and that was a normal thing in the 50s. You went to public school, whatever, and you got a high school diploma. And the social and economic status and, how can I put it? Oh, I want to look for that word. Standard of living increased dramatically throughout the United States. And you know, what they call the American dream and everything. Everybody was getting a better education, a better job, better pay, owning a car, owning a TV, which was a new thing, and all this, boom, 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 went up. And then we had, you know, some political unrest in the 60s and 70s. And also, with this political unrest, gun laws, how people looked at the guns, the military, then the whole global situation changed and how wars were fought. And there was a shock when things like the Vietnam War and that come around and we got involved in this. And there was a lot of problems, and people's concept and thoughts towards just society and the way things were done, the military warfare and the way the government was run changed. And as these boomers get old, they look at this gun as, well, that was back when America was great, and it's old and it's outdated, it's not a modern weapon of war, so this is okay, but this is not, even though this gun was developed 15 years later or something, and it really doesn't matter. It's just a psychological difference that you didn't own stuff like this, okay? And then we get in to where just, you know, a lot of this confrontation is, hey, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, this guy argues about this and this and that, and everybody, and yeah, okay? This is where you get in with pissants, okay? Now, some of the guns I have here, I'm going to put this one aside so I can reach down into my pistol area. One that everybody carries on about is the 1911. Now, what it is, it's kind of, you find that national pride stories, this and that. this weapon, like you say, all these old guys say they're the greatest thing there. This is what I was issued when I was in the service. It's not. Okay, a lot of the wartime production guns were junk because I talked to the people that made them. When I was being taught how to be a machinist, they would call these people in out of retirement to train me how to run machines, and a lot of them worked in the defense plants manufacturing these guns. Now don't get me wrong, I'm proficient with this weapon. I had one like it as a civilian, and I shot so many rounds out of it I wore the damn thing out and ended up buying this one. Okay? The wartime production guns are going for $2,000 plus now, which I think is insane. But then again, right, this thing, this Turkish made one, retails for about $400. Brand name one, they're $700, $800, $1,000. So yeah, who knows? Collectible, they're worth a ton of money. But I've talked to a lot of guys that were issued them during the Vietnam War, and they said, you know, I can do a whole video on the myths, and I heard so many insane stories that make no sense about this gun, how it performs, accuracy, all kinds of bizarre stories. I can make a complete video telling you all kinds of weird crap about this gun, okay? And, you know, that's something you want to put it down in the comments section. If you want to hear about the M16, put it in the comments section. I already did something on the Garand. If you look, when I was talking in general about how they didn't want these out in civilian use because our society would turn into a lawless bunch of armed rabble. Now we go on, okay, and kind of opportunist too, Glocks. Alright, there's another one. You guys get all this crap about any of these polymer guns. It's what people make. Now the Glock, the way it is to replace the revolver. The .38 caliber revolver was standard with the police for many, many years. And really, in my opinion, if you just had one handgun, a Smith or Colt .38, I like the Smith action better. The Colt action's kind of frail. But a Smith & Wesson in .38 Special, a lightweight gun. It's light, easy to carry. Alright, the Glock replaced that because the way the Glock is designed, it's a very simple gun, don't need to train people too much on it, and it was inexpensive to manufacture with the unique polymer frame, which still has steel in it. A lot of people don't understand. There are rails in this, okay? The upper slide's all metal, it don't run on plastic. Some people worship these guns, and the price just goes up on them constantly. And some people tell you they're plastic junk and they'll blow up. And kind of how that comes is I've talked to people that believe that you never have to clean a Glock. Okay, it's some sort of idiotic thing, and that's what a pissant would tell you. And an opportunist, when he sees a Glock, I never had trouble selling a used Glock, as long as I had the price right, because people see this, people identify with this, and people will pay you for used guns or not knowing much about it. Okay, that's where the opportunists come in. Glocks are universally recognizable, loved by people. Are they the best gun? I know how to shoot them. I'm proficient with them. Like any firearm, it has its drawbacks, its plus or minuses. I don't think it's that great, okay? Because in reality, what I would prefer, and I have some 9mm with 15 round magazines, everything else, this and that. But I found that some guns, in my own preference, okay, and I'm not talking, these are all full-size service guns. For concealed carry, I take like a Polish P64 or even a Czech CZ70 or something in .32 auto would be a good concealed carry gun. But if I had to take a full-size gun and lug it around with me, it'd be this Beretta 51. Now, why you say that with this 7 or 8 round magazine, weird mag release and that. To me, and yeah, you can tell by I like a solid steel gun. This gun's reliable, it's accurate, I can control it, it fits in my hand good, even though it only has 7 rounds, okay? Now we have to be real. If I get in a situation where the difference between a 7 round magazine and a 15 round magazine, in other words, a larger group of people coming at me, okay, basically you're screwed, even if you had the 15 round mag, right? That kind of gives you confidence and that. But the thing about this gun, where my confidence comes from, even though it only has 7 or 8 rounds in it, when I shoot the thing at a reasonable distance, if someone was attacking me, I could engage 2 or 3 people with, have a spare mag and be all right. Okay? Because I point this, I shoot this gun is incredibly accurate and it's easy for me to shoot. It's not in a huge caliber like a 40 or 45 or whatever. And it comes down to, realistically, is being able to hit what you're shooting at with something you can control and that's reliable. It's simple as that. And it doesn't matter what it is. If, for you, this, because it has a higher mag capacity, is something you can shoot and control and you're proficient with it, ain't nothing wrong with it. Okay? But the thing is, don't be fooled. If you shoot, I guess I've seen pictures of these blow up. And I've seen a lot of these guns blow up. Because people didn't clean them. Number one was one reason. When they had that Sterling ammo, I did the damn video on that, and I've seen all kinds of photos of Glocks and Springfields and everything. All of these things jammed. Some blew up. Okay? It's not really the gun or the operator. A lot of times it's the ammo or the maintenance and care of the weapon. Okay? That's a big thing with Glocks, and it's also with the AR-15 platform, because I see so many dweebs out on the range. I was out there one day, and everybody's out there shooting one of these things in some variation. And I don't mean just the generic ones. You don't see many Colts, because they're quite expensive. But there were Rugers, there were some other makers that were a little bit more high-end, and everybody's having problems with the gun not working. And so many people come up and, oh, listen, and one guy, well, it ain't broke in yet. I said, you buy it new? No, I bought it used. And I can tell the reason the guns were malfunctioning, short cycling, they don't clean them. The downside of the AR-15 system is you must clean it and clean it well, disassemble it, and so many people I see that don't understand that and have problems, and they're embarrassed because gotta have an AR, That's where you're getting into dipshit land. Alright, so that's my take on all this. I kind of agree with you guys, and most people saying, well, the story of the Lee Enfield where the guy shot it in rapid fire. I've done that before. I had a stroke and that. I was able to do that, and I've done that several times. It does kind of scare the shit out of people when they see you do something with an old gun like that, But trying to get even or to upset these people back is not a good idea. And when you get somebody just telling you some insane nonsense about it, and with me, it is because I'm old. The time I have left on this planet, I don't want to waste it arguing with somebody who's not going to listen to me or listen to sense or anything. So it's kind of best to avoid them. Trying to aggravate the people back is not a good idea. It's just range etiquette. And the thing is, it's not so much on the gun range. It's like when you go to the grocery store or trying to get in line for gas and you got people cut you off and act like a dick. You're going to find it everywhere. You know, and a lot of times you'd like to, road rage. People do this weird crap, and you see them stop at a stoplight. You like to get out of your car and yank them out of the car and slap the shit out of them, but don't want to be on the evening news, do you? All right, so that's my take on it. And like I said, if you guys want me to get into more of the controversy of these different weapons, I could do a video just on those. All right, thanks for watching.